Today, we're going to break down some really interesting ideas from speaker Mike Ellis. We're talking about priority placement, something he calls the victory with Ash bridge, and a business model that he says is, well, totally different from anything else out there. So, what does all this actually mean? Let's dive in and unpack it. Here's how we're going to do it. First up, we'll get a solid handle on what priority placement is. Then, we'll talk about this victory with Ash bridge. After that, we're going to dig into the speaker's pretty bold theory about a recession-proof business. And to wrap it all up, we'll look at the timeline for when this is all supposed to go down. All right, let's get right to it. Section 1, explaining priority placement. This is really the term that kicks this whole thing off. So the big question, what exactly is priority placement? The speaker says he gets asked this all the time, so let's look at the answer he gives. When you boil it all down, priority placement is basically the onboarding process. It's the name for the system that moves people onto a new platform, which is kind of the gateway into this new business venture. Now, this is where the language gets really interesting, right? The speaker doesn't just say signing people up. He uses the word uploading us all into victory with Ash. That one word, uploading, makes it sound so much more technical and deliberate, like you're being moved to a very specific, planned-out destination. And speaking of that destination, that brings us right to our next section. This victory with Ash thing, it's not just some kind of waiting room. It's framed as something way, way more important. So what is it? Well, according to the speaker, it's a few things. Yes, it's the bridge to the new business, but it's also an entire educational platform. He says it's packed with decades of curated online knowledge, basically a place to learn everything you need to know before you jump in. Now, here's a concept the speaker really hammers home about this platform. It's this idea that everyone is on a totally level playing field. And this right here really shows you what he means. He makes it super clear that it doesn't matter if you're the very first person to join or the 10,000th. Once you're inside Victory with Ash, there are supposedly no hierarchies. When you get in, gives you absolutely no special advantage. Okay, so how does all this connect to the actual business? Well, this leads us to the speaker's pretty wild theory, the idea that this business could actually thrive even in a bad economy. He asks a really bold question. Could this thing actually be recession-proof? I mean, that is a huge claim. So let's take a closer look at his reasoning. But first, and this is super important, the speaker is very, very clear about this part. This whole recession-proof idea, it's his own opinion. It's his analysis, not an official statement from the company leader, Mr. Mufreh. The whole argument really comes down to this key difference he sees. On one side, you've got your typical public companies that, he argues, exist to make profits for stockholders. But on the other side, he says you have this private company, which is all about helping people. And that difference, he believes, gives it incredible flexibility. So here's the logic he lays out. Since it's privately owned, it's not trapped by shareholder demands. And because it's an IT company selling all digital products, there's no physical warehouse full of stuff that costs money. He argues that this setup means they can drop prices in a heartbeat if the economy starts to tank. So we have the concepts, we have the theory. The last piece of this puzzle is the timing. What happens next, and more importantly, when? The timeline he describes creates a real sense of urgency. He says the whole process has already kicked off, that we're talking about a matter of days now, not weeks or months. And it's all building up to this one big moment when, in his words, the floodgates open. And hey, for anyone worried they might get left behind in all of this, the speaker does offer some reassurance. Apparently, Mr. Mufreh is going to keep everyone in the loop so that nobody misses their chance to get in. So, it all leads up to this very clear call to action. The final instruction from the speaker is simple. Find a link, come on in, get into Victory with Ash. That's the immediate next step. And that pretty much wraps it up. The speaker's entire argument seems to hinge on this single powerful idea, a business that's built to put people before profits. And that leaves us with a really big question to think about. What does a business built for people, not profit, actually look like in the real world?